Hey there everyone, Afrodo Reviews here, helping you decide, is that book worth reading, or does it deserve the fiery pits of Mount Doom? I'm going to teach the little one to do this and I'm going to be haunted forever, aren't I? Today I'm going to do another tag video. I admit I'm probably a bit late on this specific one, but I wanted to do it and not just let it pass me by, so I'm going to go ahead and, finish this up, post it up, and hope you guys enjoy it. But that tag video is the Midyear Freakout Tag. Now, I did this last year as well, but that was last year, so let's do this year. I really don't have much else to say about it. It basically is talking about my reading journey up to this point. And while you guys have seen most of it, there are a few books I'll probably end up talking about here that I haven't reviewed yet. Without further delay, let's just go ahead and get into the tag video. And we start off with the first question. Now, mind you, although I've seen plenty of videos on this, I'm going to be using a bookowlscorner.com website as just a quick cheat sheet of what the questions are. Since I just kind of want to do this and I don't want to sit there and prep for it, answer the questions off the top of my head more or less. Now that may result in a bit more stuttering than normal, but genuineness. Question 1. Best book I've read so far in 2022. The best book I've read so far in 2022 is, I would say, Heir of the Empire by Timothy Zahn. This was honestly a very impressive book that I've heard a lot of good things about, and I'm really glad it lived up to the hype of those things. It's basically, in my opinion, probably the best we'll ever get to a true sequel to the original trilogy of Star Wars. And I'm not gonna, just move on, don't rant about the Disney trilogy. It takes all of our characters that we know and love, uses them to their fullest extent, while also introducing an interesting new bad guy, interesting new side characters, and just so on. It just does so much. And I'm honestly looking forward to picking up the sequels and finishing the trilogy. So far, it is by far the best book I've read. Question number 2. The best sequel I've read so far in 2023. I think I said 2022 last time. Ignore that. So the best sequel I've read is a bit of a harder question to answer, because technically Timothy Zahn's Heir of the Empire could count as a sequel. In fact, all the EU books I've read this year could count as a sequel to one of the Star Wars movies or another Star Wars novel. So for the sake of fairness, I'm going to cut those out. That leaves me with only a few options. Now, I've read a lot of book ones this year. Of a series, but I have read very few actual sequels to them yet. I will say the sequels I did read, I ended up not knowing they were sequels for the most part, like Slip Runner, which I had planned to do a whole video about how annoyed I was that I constantly try to get books from Amazon, but because of the Amazon system, it's so poorly laid out that I often get books that are like spin-off book 1 of this 36 book series. And trust me, more often than not, that spin-off book will call so frequently to the series it's a spin-off from that you basically need to read the spin-off. That you basically need to read the original series to understand some stuff in the spin-off. Ultimately, I'll say that the best sequel I've read, mostly because it's the only one that actually fits, is Inheritor by C.J. Cherryh. I still don't know how to say her name. And this is a sequel to the book Foreigner, which I did review back in May. Now, I finished this book, and I haven't really given my thoughts yet. I plan to eventually, so I'm not going to go too in-depth on here. But overall, I felt it pretty much was very similar to the first one. Not exactly the same, but enough so. I'm not going to sing its praises here, so I'll just move on to question number 3. A new release I haven't read yet, but I want to. Okay, so if you've watched my channel at any point, or you've talked to me at any point, or you'll like me at any point, you know that I'm not very good at keeping up with recent releases. In fact, I think apart from the Nico books from Percy Jackson that's coming out, I legitimately could not tell you a single book that has come out this year in 2023. So ultimately, I'm gonna have to say I have no idea. I really don't have a new release out there that I haven't read yet, but I want to. Honestly, this year, just with all the Kindle Unlimited books I've ranted about, this is probably the most caught up I've been on books this year than I ever have in my life. So, most anticipated... Question 4. My most anticipated release for the second half of 2023. see previous question. Yeah. Question number 5. My biggest disappointment so far. So there are a couple books that I could potentially list here as being the biggest disappointment. But I'm not going to choose the obvious hints that I really dislike, like Melancholy Magic. Despite the fact that I didn't like that book, I didn't actually go into it expecting great things. So it didn't really disappoint me. I could say something like Orc and Her Bride, as I ranted about that. But I wouldn't say that my disappointment was really strong with that one. It was a relative unknown book to me. It was a relatively unknown book to me, and I did just pick it up for some light reading. I do have one book that definitely fits this role, but I'm pretty sure the review that I filmed isn't going up before this video, so my next review will be the one that is my answer. Keep an eye out for that if you're curious. Question number 6. My biggest surprise. Obviously, it's hit me with your best, Scott, but honestly, that still kind of is the biggest surprise, considering I went in expecting the worst and got a actually somewhat decent book. But since this question comes up so often in booktube tags for some reason, I've decided that I have to choose something else at this point. I can't just keep answering this book anymore. So, I'll go ahead and say my biggest surprise was Death Star by Michael Reeves and Stephen... I will go ahead and say Death Star by Michael Reeves and Steve Perry was my biggest surprise this year so far. And that's because, although I wasn't expecting bad things from it, I expected it to be at least an average book. Death Star was a much more captivating read than I initially thought it was going to be. I was actually very invested in it, and as I said in my review, it takes a special kind of book to get me to just sit there and binge read about 200 pages in a row till I was done. Normally, I take breaks like every 50 or 60 pages, just, refresh my mind, but I was just so interested in seeing how this book ended that I had to keep reading it. So I will use that as my example. Death Star by Michael Reeves and Stephen Perry. Whatever it is, whatever it says up there, I didn't go find the book. Number 7, my new favorite author. This is another question that pops up a lot in these booktube tags, and when it comes to it, it's just like, I don't think I have a new favorite author yet. In fact, I went through my old books that I'd read this year, and I've only read a series of books written by the same author in 2 instances. That would be during the Star Wars EU with Michael Reeves and Steve Perry, because they wrote a lot of the books that I read, such as MedStar and Death Star. Ironic naming convention there, now that I think about it. But I wouldn't say I've read enough of them to say they're my new favorite author. Just like as much as I love the Timothy Zahn book, I wouldn't say he's my new favorite author solely based on The Heir of the Empire, because I have seen his other works and before that, and I don't think I would say favorite. In addition to that, I've only ever read one book from all of these, so I'll have to go ahead and say I don't have a new favorite author yet. If this happens to change, I'll bring it up, but I don't judge authors on single books alone. I mean, again, everyone has their worst book and everyone has their best book, so I'm not going to judge an author based on their best or worst alone. Number 8, my newest fictional crush. I don't have one. Yeah, I don't really have a fictional crush, if I'm being completely honest with you. There's no character that really stood out to the point where I was like, wow, I would totally date this person if they were real. Not yet, anyways. I mean, I'm not one of those people, I guess, to a certain extent. It doesn't happen all that often to me. I do get fictional crushes. I'm not one of those people that's like, I never get a fictional crush. I do get them. I personally don't get them very often. I really don't. There's really not a single one that I can think of off the top of my head that would even qualify as a, if any of them qualify, it's just, yeah. So moving on. Question 9. My newest favorite character. Since the question specifies new, I can't really use characters that I already knew about and like Luke Skywalker, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Mara Jade, Wedge Antilles, all these characters that were already characters I knew and were established. I can't say they're my new favorite character because I already knew about them and I already like them. So when it comes to new favorite character, I kind of guess I have to think. I suppose Bryn Cameron might count from the Foreigner series so far. I do like who he is as a person, although I don't think I would go out on a limb and say he's a new favorite character so far. And as much as I liked Alex and Henry from Red, White, and Royal Blue, I'm not sure I would say they're my favorite characters either. I guess I just have I don't know. I guess I don't really have a new favorite character just yet. I guess if I had to choose any of them, it would be Bryn Cameron from the Foreigner series, just because he's a very nuanced and layered character. And it's interesting, and we do see a lot of his thought process, so I can almost say I kind of know how this guy thinks. But other than that, yeah, I don't have a new favorite character. So question number 10. Books that made me cry. None yet. I don't get easily... Well, I mean, I guess I do, kind of. But I don't think I've cried under any book that I've read this year, at least not to the point that it's worth remembering. There were a couple scenes that did make me sad, I will say that, but no book, I think, actually drew tears from me yet. So, unfortunately, another question will I'll have to be like, skip, I guess, for now. Books that made me happy. I haven't really read any specific feel-good book so far. I guess if I was to choose any specific book that just made me smile and enjoy myself more than any other, it would be Red, White, and Royal Blue, mostly because that is just a fluffy, light romance that you're just supposed to have a lot of fun while reading. And it doesn't take itself that... Okay, it does kind of take itself seriously. But the characters are likable enough, and the chemistry between the two characters is so perfect. You really enjoy yourself while reading it, and you actually feel the things going on, and you feel happy when they're happy. So I would have to say, of all the books that qualify, Red, White, and Royal Blue would probably hit best. Please no one comment on the speech impediment. I can hear how I'm saying it. Question 12. Favorite book to movie adaptation that I have seen this year? Absolutely none of them. I have not watched a single book to movie adaptation this year. Believe it or not. Not I guess Hunger Games, if you want to count that, but that's more of a rewatch than something I've watched this year, so not a soul. I can't tell you which one I fear the most. Although the trailer looks good, I am terrified of what the One Piece live-action adaptation is going to be. I'm hoping for the best, guys. The actors look like actual fans, but I don't trust it. I really don't. Question number 13. Favorite post I've written this year. It says favorite post, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that this also is applying to favorite video I put out this year. And I'm going to go ahead and say that it's the Orc and Her Bride video. That video was hard. Okay, that video took me a lot of time. I really pushed on it. My other two previous minor TBRs, some people had told me that they didn't like that I put the gameplay in the background when I was talking about the book, since it wasn't exactly matching what I was talking about. So I went out of my way to go ahead and do this. To the whole review in that style, with that and both brought to light. But I want to say that Orc and Her Bride was definitely my favorite of the two that I put out like that. Just because the end product I enjoyed so much. And I really enjoyed what I did with that review. It's personally my favorite this year that I put out. Number 14. The most beautiful book I have bought this year. I have no idea. I guess I'll go ahead and say Thunderhead. I guess I'll go ahead and say Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. I have his Scythe book, and I was going to wait to read it before I try to get the sequels, but I saw this cover, and I'm just like, ooh, I want that on my shelf. Because it's a really nice cover. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty sure that if I ever decide not to keep this book, I might just keep the cover. Just so I have the cover. So yeah, this is the answer. It's a book I bought this year, and it's the cover I like the most. What books do I really need to read by the end of this year? All of them. All of them. Every book I have. That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it. And it looks like we're at the end of the list, so I hope you guys enjoyed this Midyear Freakout Tag. I hope that it was accurate to what everyone else is doing. But if it's not, well, then I did something against the mold, and I hope you guys enjoy the shake-up of the formula. I really don't have much else to say in regards to this. I'll probably find another tag, maybe do it again this year. This might be a slow month for TBRs, so... This year. This might be a slow month for the minor TBRs, so that's all I can say for now. With that being said, just remember, every book comes an adventure, and every adventure is worth having, even the bad ones.